Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. Boy, I'll tell you, I have so many things that I want to tell you about, but here is one that you're going to have a hard time believing, I think. And it's a story about my sister Brenda's squirrels. Now, my sister lives on a little street in Messina, and behind her house is this great big tree. And as you look out the kitchen window, it's unbelievable to see sort of the natural environmental system that's taking place out there with birds and squirrels and other animals that come to that area. And it's a wonderful place when we get together and we're eating and we're looking out the window and watching all this. Well, okay, that gives you a little bit of a setup for this story. Brenda says she came home the other day, and as she was driving into the driveway, a squirrel that was, I guess, waiting for her saw her coming, and it ran right in the driveway and ahead of her and got up on the porch and sat there and waited for her to get out of the car. Now, why did it do that? That isn't really what this story's about, but why did it do it? Obviously, it recognized her and it recognized the car. But why was it really doing it? It associated her with feeding those animals out in the yard. She goes out and she puts bird seed or she puts peanuts and different things like this out there, and the squirrels apparently love it, and they watch for her. They actually look in the window to see what she's doing in the kitchen. I brought this up because I think it's fascinating. And a year or so ago, maybe it was a few years ago, I told you a story that affected me tremendously at the same place at the time my dad was alive. But I had come over to visit my dad and my sisters, and they said, there's a squirrel that's injured outside, and it doesn't seem to be able to walk or move much. And I thought, oh boy. And we had a neighborhood cat, and the cat knew this was happening. But what happened that day is that all the squirrels in the area, and I had no clue how many there were, they all seemed to know. They started talking with it. Now I know as I say this, talking with each other, you're gonna tune out. You're gonna say, boy, he's really going nuts. But they all started communicating in some way that there seemed to be a migration of squirrels from other streets that came over to our yard that day to witness what they knew was going to be the death of their partner, this other squirrel that was part of their community. And they all came over, and the trees were full of squirrels, and they were watching to see what happened. And apparently what happened was what happens in nature. That day, the squirrel tried to get away, tried to run across the street. And as it did that, I saw the cat chasing it. And then they both disappeared. And I heard all kinds of sounds coming from the trees. The squirrels knew it. And they were there to witness an end of a time for one of their family. And then later, all the squirrels left. They went back to the other streets around, to the other trees that were their homes. But it impacted me so deeply. And why am I telling you this story? Because my sister telling me about the squirrel, she was scared to get out of the car. She didn't dare to walk up by the squirrel for fear it would jump on her. And I don't know if that would have happened or not. But my point is, nature is fascinating. We take all the beings around us, I think, for granted. I really believe that. And there's certain animals and birds that are so smart that we don't give them credit for what they know. And so how does this relate to fish? Well, I believe that fish have much more, I hate to say intelligence, but awareness, a sense of being than we give them credit for. I think they learn. I think they communicate. And I think if I've got to leave this whole thought with a basic lesson is whatever you use to catch fish in an area, other fish know what's happening. They do communicate in some way, and eventually that lure, that bait that you used will become less effective because they learn to avoid it. My lesson for this, maybe my lesson for this year, was just taken up with that little story. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on another fishing report.